The night skyline of the city shimmered like a blanket of fallen stars beyond the glass walls of the 42nd floor office. The conference room was still alive with murmurs, the faint hum of computers, and the soft buzz of ambition. But amid all that glittering power stood a man who didn't belong, a man in a navy blue cleaner's jumpsuit, holding an old metal bucket that had seen better days. His name was Ethan Hale, and tonight, exhaustion clung to his every step like a shadow he couldn't shake. He had just finished mopping the corridors when his trembling hand slipped. The bucket tilted. A flash of silver water cascaded forward, and in an instant, it drenched the open laptop on the polished table before him. The screen flickered, sparked, and went black. The CEO, Clara Whitmore, turned sharply, her eyes widening in disbelief. The entire boardroom froze. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories that remind us of the goodness buried beneath mistakes, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because what happens next might just restore your faith in humanity. Ethan's heart thundered. The bucket clanged to the floor as panic surged through his veins. He could already see his life crumbling before him, his job gone, his rent unpaid, his little daughter asleep at home, dreaming under a flickering heater he could barely afford to keep running. He stumbled over his words, trying to apologize, but his voice cracked. He had been working 3 shifts back to back. His hands were raw from scrubbing floors. He hadn't eaten a full meal since morning. All he could do was stare at the soaked laptop as beads of water rolled down its shattered keyboard like tears. Clara stood frozen for a long moment, her sharp green eyes darting from the drenched device to the terrified men before her. To her, that laptop was her world. It held confidential plans, investor details, and something deeply personal she hadn't shared with anyone. The board members stepped back, whispering among themselves. Someone muttered that the cleaner should be fired immediately. Another called for security. But Clara didn't move. She noticed the way Ethan's hands trembled, the dark circles under his eyes, the faint burn mark on his forearm from some old cleaning accident. Something about him, the desperation, the silent guilt, stopped her anger before it could rise. She knelt by the table, her hands trembling as she tried to dry the laptop with a tissue. "It's ruined," one of her colleagues muttered under his breath. Ethan's eyes welled up. "I'm so sorry, ma'am," he said softly, almost choking on the words. "I'll pay for it somehow." "I didn't mean to," his voice broke, the sentence collapsing under the weight of shame. He had no idea that his mistake had already saved him. Because as Clara opened the screen again, the display flickered to life just one more time before dying completely. For a brief, fragile second, something appeared on it. A photograph. A small girl with light brown hair, maybe 5 or 6, smiling brightly while holding a hand-drawn card that read, "Happy birthday, Daddy. You're my hero." Clara's eyes softened instantly. She glanced up at Ethan, and for the first time, saw not a cleaner, but a father. The room fell silent. The executives exchanged puzzled looks, unsure what the CEO was staring at. But for Clara, that image hit a place she hadn't touched in years. Her own father had been a janitor once, a man who had worked nights to put her through school, who had died before seeing her rise to the top. The memory hit like a tidal wave. She blinked hard, but the tears escaped anyway, rolling down her cheeks before she could stop them. Ethan looked utterly lost. He thought she was crying out of anger, that he had destroyed something priceless. But the truth was, the sight of that little girl had shattered every wall around Clara's heart. She asked softly, "Is that your daughter?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Her name's Lila," he said, his voice trembling. I keep her picture as my wallpaper. It reminds me why I'm doing all this." He explained in fragments, how his wife had passed away 2 years ago after a long illness, how he worked nights to keep his daughter in school, how he sometimes brought her to the janitor's closet because he couldn't afford childcare. Every word carried exhaustion, love, and an unspoken pride. Clara's chest tightened. She dismissed the murmuring executives and told Ethan to sit, though he refused at first. Then, without a word, she sent everyone else out of the room. As the door closed, the city lights behind her glowed brighter, reflecting in the tears that still shimmered on her cheeks. She told him quietly that she wasn't angry, that accidents happen, and that maybe, just maybe, this one had happened for a reason. She asked about Lila's favorite color, her favorite food. Ethan smiled faintly for the first time, saying she loved pancakes with too much syrup and coloring books she could never finish. Over the next few days, Clara couldn't stop thinking about that night. She had the laptop repaired, though she'd already copied the photo that had appeared on the screen into her mind forever. A week later, she called Ethan into her office. He arrived nervously, his uniform freshly ironed, his eyes anxious. Clara stood by the window, holding a small folder. She told him that she had been reviewing a proposal for an internal maintenance project, something that could use a supervisor who truly understood the struggles of the staff. Then she handed him the folder with his name on it. Ethan opened it slowly. Inside was an offer letter. She was promoting him. His salary would triple, his working hours would be reduced, and there was a note at the bottom in her handwriting, "For Lila. Thank you for reminding me that kindness still matters." He tried to speak, but his voice broke into quiet sobs. Clara turned away for a moment, pretending to check her phone, but her own eyes glistened too. In the weeks that followed, the once silent cleaner began to smile again. He would come home early to Lila, who'd wait by the window with 2 cups of hot cocoa and her favorite storybook. On his first weekend off, he bought her a small second-hand bicycle with pink ribbons. She squealed with joy, pedaling down the narrow street while he watched, his hands trembling not from exhaustion now, but from gratitude. Clara, meanwhile, started a new initiative at her company, a scholarship program for the children of low-income employees. At the launch event, she mentioned, "Sometimes, it takes one small accident to remind us that success means nothing if we forget where we came from." If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Corner to keep kindness alive in a world that often forgets it. Every view, every comment helps spread a little more light. Before we end, tell us in the comments, have you ever been shown kindness when you least expected it? We'd love to hear your story. As for Ethan and Lila, their days slowly turned from struggle to hope. Each sunrise felt like a gift. And sometimes, when Ethan mopped the shiny office floors, he'd glance at the CEO's desk and smile, remembering the night he thought he had ruined everything, when in truth, he had saved something far more precious. That night didn't destroy his life. It changed it, forever.